y'all doing? This is Cody Flowers with the YMCA. I am the Youth Program Director here at the Y. We are fortunate enough to have our certified YMCA art teacher, Miss Hanners, who teaches our Young in Art class. She is on hand and she's at home actually, getting ready to take some videos for you guys so you guys can see some easy art projects you could do with the supplies that may be laying around your house. So without further ado, we're going to transition this video to her in her humble abode.
Hi, Miss Hanners here again. I'm actually going to do a lesson that goes together with the previous lesson that I taught about shading techniques. I'm going to start off first by talking about the circles that I had mentioned. I'm going to do 4 circles to go with the 4 different types of techniques. I do want to mention that if you have troubles drawing circles, there's also another little thing I remember from my high school art teacher, that you kind of pretend that you are drawing a circle. So actually I'd take my watch off for that, because if you do have anything, it kind of catches on the paper. But you almost like pretend that you're going to make a circle, and then you slowly, so I'm obviously not making the circle yet, but my pencil tip is very close. And then as you kind of let down on the paper, it helps you make a circle. So again, you kind of act like, so my hand's actually kind of resting on the paper, if you can hear that. And so again, I kind of act like I'm making the circle. Then it kind of helps you. Not always perfect, but as good as you can get without having to trace. So again, kind of doing that again there, letting it kind of go down. Kind of go back in and touch it up a little bit. So that's kind of a basic way to help you, make some circles for this next step. So I'll flip back to the previous page. So I have my 4 circles here, and I did end up tracing just so I'd have them ready for you, and you wouldn't have to sit here and wait for me to make all of them and try to fit them into the space. So the first one I'm going to start off with is the stippling or the pointillism, and the reason why I am using the marker, because I think it's a little bit easier to see. Even when I teach my students, a lot of times I have to teach with a black marker so you can see a little bit better, but when I did the other ones, they're a little bit more heavy on what I was doing. So anyway, that's why I use pencil instead of the marker. So when doing shading, I'm going to consider my light source. So whether it's a light in the room, the sun outside, whatever it might be, I'm going to say that the light source is coming from this direction. So the lightest part of my circles will be on the right, kind of upper part of them. And what's interesting is you're going to see how these circles, which look very flat, start to become more 3-dimensional, and that's the whole point of adding value. So with the stippling, again, I'm going to kind of pretend my light is hitting in that area. So I'm going to kind of start off down here, and again, I'm not going too heavy on the dots just yet. Again, I'm going way faster than I normally would. And again, there might be some of my shadow in the way, hopefully not, but I'm kind of going with the curve of the circle, which you are going to see will start turning into a sphere, which is a 3-dimensional object. Again, if you go too fast, I have a little bit experience in this, so it doesn't happen too much, but you could get little lines instead. So again, I kind of keep going back over the areas that I want to be a little bit darker. And something that's kind of cool too is the more you do this, even the lighter that I go with the marker, the kind of little points that are made, they even get a little smaller too as I do this. So, and one thing to remember with marker, it's not very forgiving, so you kind of can't go back and erase it. So what I do here is what I'm stuck with, which will hopefully be a pretty decent shaded sphere with dots. So again, if I feel like it's not dark, I'm just going back in, and sometimes the dots will overlap each other. It's not a big deal, but just kind of talking through that there. Okay, so again, and if you do want to have a few come out in there, that's fine. Just spread them out more. So kind of go in and fill those gaps. I'd say that's pretty good. I could I know how I am. I can be a perfectionist sometimes. You have to let that go, take a break from it, come back, check it out later. Maybe you can add more. But I'm just going to kind of stick with that for now. Because again, especially with dots, you can kind of keep going back over them. So that's with the pointillism, okay? Going darker to lighter there, making it look more like a sphere instead of a circle. Okay, the cross hatching, that gets a little tricky. This is a circular curve shape. So, a couple things you could do is you could just go in making the lines, and I might shorten up the lines a little bit here. Again, I'm keeping my light source hitting the sphere in the same spot. So I'm just gonna kind of let them, I kind of like when they kind of fade out a little bit. So for now, I'm not really curving it too much, but you'll see if it tends to look still too flat, then what I'm gonna do, now I just did the hatching, now I'm adding the cross hatching. So again, you could just do hatching if you wanted to, and that would be another level of shading. But if I feel like it's not looking curvy enough, I could go in and kind of curve some of them to kind of blend it a little bit better, kind of quick and light so it doesn't show up too much. So again, just a basic number 2 pencil would be okay. I'm using a 12B. These actually came from Hobby Lobby. Little tidbit, if you use their 40% off coupon, that helps. Or sometimes, and actually I think right now this is 50% off for the Masters Touch brand of these pencils, which is good deal. So all right, and then if I want to go back in and just be a little bit darker here, I could kind of do that. I am curving them a little bit just because I think it looks nicer, but you can keep it a little bit more diagonal. So there's that one there, okay? So this one, this kind of gestural, again, it kind of, don't really know what it reminds me of, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of loose. And if you notice, I had quite a bit of control, so I'm going to bring my finger up here just a little bit. To be honest with you, it doesn't really matter if you go a little bit further down on your pencil. I mean, again, you kind of adjust and see what works for you. But I am getting a little bit lighter here with my pressure that I'm applying. And again, I think it looks kind of cool. Almost kind of looks like the texture that might be on a planet or something. So again, kind of with shading in general, you do have to have some control over it, but you kind of see what works for you. So again, kind of trying to keep that light source there. When you're comparing them side by side, they might all be a little bit different, but that's okay. Okay, so this is just kind of basic shading here. So again, I kind of go in and kind of start with the darkest side first. I feel like for me that works. It might work differently for others, but I'm going with the curve of the object. Now, if I had a little bit more of a straight edge, you would try to go as much as you can with the flow of that particular object. So again, right now I'm just kind of trying to use my entire arm. It's a little bit difficult because I'm trying to go a little bit faster. So, but in general, I think I'm doing a pretty good job just kind of using my whole arm here. But in this case, it actually might not be too bad if you have a little bit of a curvy line. I was saying, like on these, you might get too much of a curvy line if you're trying to just do a basic kind of value scale. But again, the world of art there's so many possibilities, so it is what you make of it. And, as long as you're kind of following some basic guidelines, but having a little fun and putting a little bit of your own imagination in there, I think that's what's most important, especially with young children, and they're capable of a lot. So, okay, so I'm kind of going back in now because I feel like I need to get a little bit darker there. But again, you want this kind of gradual flow. You don't want it, what I see is a lot of kids, they go, it almost looks like dark, and there's this like really harsh line and it goes right to light. But again, you got to kind of let it gradually fade and blend. Again, a blending stick. I forgot to mention too that you could probably try out a paper towel, tissue, if you got any of those lying around. But for me, I think your good old fingertip, that way you don't have to go out and buy things. I even think this edge could be kind of rounded out a little bit, so I'm going to go in and kind of fix that a little bit. So again, like I kind of want to go back in and blend this a little bit so I don't see those. But Yeah, and then you can go back in and if you had a kneaded eraser, again, I don't have it because I'm just trying to show you what it's like without having that. But, you could go in with an eraser and I guess I could just show you, kind of clean it up a little bit. If you take away too much, the great thing is you can always go back in and kind of add more. But if I feel like I got too much smeared there, I could go back and kind of fix that. But then you might create kind of a harsh line again, go back in and kind of blend it. So anyway, again, just doing this on plain old white paper, but you could do it on notebook paper. But I thought I'd just kind of, do that first part, and then this kind of how you to apply it to objects, and again, making them look more three-dimensional. Thanks for watching.